I almost, if they were both to run, I would want them to get beat. Hello and welcome back to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. An extra video for you this week because we've had entries for the 2024 Dublin Racing Festival. We've had the entries for every single one of the races across the 2 days. There's 15 in total. I think there's 8 grade 1s, 2 grade 2s, multiple listed races. It looks frighteningly good, and it has a very, very strong history of producing Cheltenham Festival winners. If you do enjoy this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and do get your comments down below. But I'm going to go through some of the races which I feel there are interesting entries and discuss them and what that might mean for that, as well as the Cheltenham Festival. Without further ado, I'm going to kick on. Day 1, the first race is the 2 mile 6 furlong Nathaniel Lacy Solicitors Novices Hurdle, grade 1. This is an interesting one because it looks to me like a relatively weak contest at this point. Ballyburn's in there. He's 10 to 1 for the race, but he's going to go for the 2 mile race. So we're going to completely discard him. Predator's Gold has been backed. He's 5 to 2. He's interesting. I actually personally thought he was a speed horse when finishing second to Colwell Potter in horrific ground. I thought he was more speed than stamina, but I may have got that wrong. 5 to 1 High Class Heroes in there. He's running this weekend if Thurles is on, so I'm not sure he'd be running here if he does run this weekend, but it's a backup option. 10 to 1 Reed and Tommy Wrong. I think if he was an intended runner, he wouldn't be 10 to 1, so I'd look into the price there. I don't think he will run. I think he'll probably go straight to the Albert Bartlett. And then a couple of others. Lachlan is second favourite of 4 to 1. I'm not sure he's all that, personally. That's my opinion. I think he's a good horse without being a real grade 1 winner. So for me, I'd be happy to take him on. I think the interesting one for me in the Nathaniel Lacy at this present moment is Jatara at 10s. I'm not sure where she's going to go. Could she go to the Sol Arena? She is a novice, but she was very impressive over 2.5 miles, beating horses that are older than her, mares that are older than her at the Dublin Racing Festival. Sorry, at Dublin Leopardstown at Christmas. And I think getting £7 in a pretty weak race, I think she could be interesting at 10 to 1, but will she run? I'm going to be seeing if she will. If she does, I think she'll have a massive chance. The following grade 1, and probably the one that's most interesting with regards to entries, is the Spring Juvenile grade 1. Often a very good trial towards the Triumph Hurdle. And in there, as expected, there are plenty of horses that we've seen so far this season. We've seen win. The favourite is Stormheart at 7 to 4. He's been backed. Does that mean that Townend's going to ride him? Is he the best of those Willie Mullins juveniles? Possibly. The market might suggest that. Carla Conti's in at 7 to 2, second favourite. I think she's limited, personally. I think Gordon Elliott team really thought Mighty Bandit would go and win that race at Christmas. He massively disappointed, didn't run his race whatsoever. She got the better of Nürburgring as a result, and she won that race. Getting £7, I think, is interesting, but I still think she's limited. I think she's more likely to turn up, say, top weight in a Boodles than running a Triumph at this point, unless she was to go and win this, and that would definitely have to be rearranged, those plans. Next, we have kind of the rest of the Willie Mullins lot. 7 to 1 Bunting was good at Limerick. I thought he was pretty green and maybe greener than Stormheart. I think he might know his task at this early stage, but he'd look very good. Burdett Road's in there at 8 to 1. I think the plan is to go to Trials Day with him, so you can discard him. This is, I think, merely a backup option. 8 to 1 Cargeese. I think she's probably got a chance if you subscribe to the view that she was unlucky at the Dublin Racing Festival. Obviously, it was her first start for not the Dublin Racing Festival. I keep getting mixed up. Leopardstown at Christmas. If she was unlucky and you feel like she was, then possibly she could come on for that, and she would be interested in getting £7. Mighty Bandit in there, the big disappointment, the big hype horse, almost the 11 to 10 favourite for that race at Christmas. He massively underperformed that day, I've no doubt about it. And if he was to bounce back to what they think of him, he works the house down, he would have a chance, but 8 to 1's probably a fairly short enough price to take that chance. And then the other one, possibly the decent each way play at 10s, is Joseph O'Brien's Nürburgring. Obviously done not much wrong, won pretty impressively, finished second to Carla Conti at Leopardstown at Christmas. I think that is very interesting. But the big interesting entries are the 3 Willie Mullins horses in there. Salvador Mundy for Willie and the Donnellys, big reputation, plenty of people very excited about this juvenile. I think he's interesting. Madgeborough, to be completely honest with you, at the start of the season, I was told that Madgeborough would be Willie Mullins' triumph horse. That was from people around the yard. I think he was working the house down and pleasing them massively. We've not seen him, which I was slightly concerned at, but he is entered here. Does that mean he's going to run? I don't think Willie would be scared of running a horse like that. He's run many juveniles first time out in Grade 1s, even the Triumph. I suspect he could run here. He's owned by JP McManus. They really liked him. He's interesting. And then Amsterdam as well for Willie and the Donnellys. Not heard too much about Amsterdam, but you never know. Could be just as good as the other two. But those three possible debutants would be really interesting if they were to turn up here. And I think, other than Burdett Road, all of the other major contenders are going to contest this race. So whoever's going to come out on top is definitely the one to back for the Triumph, in my view, because I think this is going to be a really strong bit of form. I've already backed Stormheart 7-1 for the Triumph Hurdle. I think if he was to go and win, and the price and the fact that he's been back suggests that he's going to go close, then obviously that price is going to shorten and will probably be favourite on the day. So interesting. Who do you fancy there? And if you do fancy one really strong, you're probably better off backing them for the Triumph as well. Right, next Grade 1 to talk about is the 2 mile 1 furlong Irish Arkle. This is interesting. Marine Nationale in there at 1-2. I think he's a likely Arkle winner. I think he'll likely win this race. But what I can't get away from is working at Racing TV. We work alongside Road to Cheltenham, and we've spoken to Ruby Walsh and Lydia often. And Ruby seems to think that Gaelic Warrior will actually run here. He's 3-1 second favourite. I got the impression he's probably going to run, and they're going to pick this over the Flow Gas. And I actually think his price of the Flow Gas reflects the fact that he's probably going to run here. I think they want to run at the Dublin Racing Festival. And maybe with the extended 2 mile 1 furlongs, they try and make it a real stamina test and see if there are any fragilities in Marine Nationale. I think he's interesting at 3s. I'm not sure I'm going to back him yet. I would almost want a confirmation that he is going to run in this race, but equally, if you wait for that too long, he's not going to be 3-1 on the day. Found a 50s 9-2. I think he's going to be second in, given the fact that he won the Grade 1 at Christmas. If Gaelic Warrior doesn't run, and then Facile Vega 6-1 could run here, but I think he's likely to go up and trip. I'm not sure the Flowgas will be that option. He might run here and then go up and trip at Cheltenham, but I think they're trying to find opportunities to go up and trip with him. The 2 mile Future Stars, there were a couple of races in between, but I didn't think there was that many interesting entries. The 2 mile Future Stars flat race Grade 2 is again really interesting because, surprisingly, we have a Dream to Share in there. Novice hurdles seem to be parked for the season. I think that's probably due to his injury not being out until this point of the season. And JP's got so many options in those novice hurdles. You think about Jericho de Repene, Mystical Power, No Flies on Him, many other options down memory lane. There's loads. I'm sure I've forgotten a few. And maybe they're just simply thinking to save him for next year. Obviously, last year's champion bumper winner, the best bumper horse around last year, on all known form. And it's interesting because if he was to run here and if he was to win, he's one of those horses which is a bit difficult because he can't run in the champion bumper at Cheltenham because he's not qualified. He's had too many runs. That's the same for Redemption Day, who's also in here. He obviously finished second to Jalon Dudery, who on all known form this season has been the best bumper horse of this season. He's also in here. He's a standout. But if Redemption Day and A Dream to Share were to say finish 1, 2, 6 or 7 lengths clear of anything else that's ran this season, then I almost feel a bit underwhelmed because neither of them are going to be able to run in the biggest bumper of the year, the champion bumper at Cheltenham. So I almost, if they were both to run, I would want them to get beat. I know that that's a pretty interesting thing to say, given the fact that A Dream to Share's got lots of lovers, and so does Redemption Day, especially towards like a Supreme Novices Hurdle. But the fact that they're both older horses as well, running in a race like this, and they can't even contest the big race of the year in that sphere if they were to win it, makes me feel a bit iffy. And I don't think it's great that the fact they can run in a race like this. So if they were to win, I would hope that, I don't know, I'd hope they go hurdling, but they're not going to. They're going to stay in bumpers for this season. I just hope they get beat, to be perfectly honest. And I hope that is either Jalon Dudery or, interestingly, Romeo Coolio entered. This could be the possible second run before a champion bumper. I thought his first performance was all right. Wasn't anything special. I think he was pretty green and got the job done when Gordon's horses weren't running particularly well. But he's highly thought of by connections. They did mention that he's going to go straight to Cheltenham. I would like him to get another run in. I don't think he'll be winning at Cheltenham if it's just his second start for Gordon. But could it be Jalon? Could it be Romeo Coolio? There's plenty of other really exciting horses in there as well. There's the Enabler for Gordon Elliott, the Yellow Clay for Gordon Elliott, Wingmen for Gordon Elliott. You ought to know for Willie Mullins. I think he did his best work during the summer. But in recent seasons, I think we've probably got to respect summer form a bit more than we have in previous years, because you've got the likes of A Dream to Share, Marine Nationale and Mystical Power all winning plenty of races over the summer and actually putting it into effect and making sure the form is solid in the winter and at the Cheltenham Festival. So he's interesting. Joystick won the 2.5 mile Leopardstown bumper in grueling conditions. This is going to be a completely different test. You'd imagine ground will be quicker. It's not 2.5 miles, it's 2 miles. It's going to be interesting. Is Joystick the main Willie Mullins bumper horse for the champion bumper? And then I was really impressed also by Jeroboam Machan, who beat DB Cooper on bumper debut. I'm not sure that form's really, really strong. I think people like DB Cooper. I'm not a massive, massive fan. But the way that he did it was very encouraging and interesting that Paul Byrne and Emmett Mullins has entered him here, given the fact that they like to campaign their horses advantageously, and maybe they just think that he's simply a very good bumper horse and therefore running a graded bumper. Right. Moving on to day 2. I know I'm going quickly, but there's so much to talk about. The 2 mile 5 Ladbrokes Novices Chase Grade 1 used to be the Flow Gas, won by Faheen. What a day that was. It was one of the best days I've ever had at a track. Grange Clare West in there at 2 to 1. I think that was expected. I think he's the standard setter after his really impressive win over 3 miles at Christmas, but I'm not a million percent sure he'll run. I think Connections thought that he was best fresh before Christmas, and obviously he's usually put in a good performance and then a subpar performance on his next start. That wasn't the case. He was really, really good. Maybe he's changed, maybe he's matured, but it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't run here for whatever reason. Factor File's in there at 5 to 2. I think he will run. Gaelic Warrior 7 to 2. Look, I think that's the biggest indication that Gaelic Warrior is going to go to the Irish Arkle, because if Gaelic Warrior was going to run in the 2 mile 5 race, he's not going to be 7 to 2, is he? I think he'd actually be close to even money. I think his price suggests he's going to go to the Irish Arkle, and I don't think he'll be running here if he's 7 to 2 now. If plenty of money comes for him, then fair enough, but I don't think he will. Facile Vega in at 5 to 1. Will he go up and trip? Will he stay? All that malarkey. He's an interesting one. Corbett's Cross in there at 7 to 1. Maybe he'll run, maybe he won't. Or I wouldn't know. But I'd actually be pretty keen on Factor File at 5 to 2. The 2 mile Tattersalls Novices Hurdle. Interesting. Ballyburn heads the market at 5 to 4. He's in there for the entries. What would happen if he won and he was beat? If he won, does he go supreme? Does he follow a Sir Gerhard route and go up in trip? Obviously, he was beaten by Firefox over 2 miles on his first start. He was then very impressive at Leopardstown at Christmas over 2.5. Is he a Ballymore horse? Is he a supreme horse? Willie doesn't really have a real standout supreme horse unless you think that's Mystical Power. Bill El Antique, could he drop back to 2? We would be Ballyburn up in trip. I've always been of the opinion that Ballyburn will run over 2.5, but if he was to win this really impressively, would you not consider a supreme? And the fact that Willie's often used the Supreme for horses that stay really well as have speed, that could be interesting. I think this is really, really interesting, and probably the biggest race towards the Cheltenham Festival at the Dublin Racing Festival. The second favourite is Coldwell Potter at 5 to 1. I think he had a pretty hard race in grueling conditions at Christmas, and he was running against a few disappointments. Daddy Longlegs disappointed, Down Memory Lane disappointed. I'm not sure I could read that form too literally personally. Farron Glory in there at 5 to 1. I think that's a pretty fair price, but he's coming off the back of a fall in that race, the form beat at Aintree on Boxing Day. That's not ideal, is it? But his form is really, really strong this season. No flies on him in there at 6s. Again, talking about DB Cooper, he beat him relatively impressively on his start in a maiden hurdle at Christmas at Leopardstown. I'm not sure that form's really, really strong. I think he did it all right. I think I'd be happy to take him on throughout the rest of this season. Mystical Power in there at 8s. I think he's likely to go straight to Cheltenham. I can't remember the last time a Moscow Flyer winner came to this race or ran at the Dublin Racing Festival, so I would be surprised. Not something that Willie Mullins does often. Slade Steele's in there at 10s. I think he is going to run. Do I want him to win? Obviously, I've backed him in the Anti-Post series at 25 to 1 for the Ballymore, and it's an interesting one with him running over 2 miles in a race like this, where I actually think he could run really well. I just don't think he's a supreme horse. I don't think he's got the pace for it. And I might be completely wrong, but he looked like a proper stayer with a bit of class, and the 2 mile 5 trip of the Cheltenham would really suit him if it was on, say, good to soft ground. if he was to win here, connections I think will go to the Supreme. If he was to get stuff, the dream's over. If he was to run well, would they consider a Ballymore? I just really hope he runs in a Ballymore, because obviously I've backed him, so I'm a little bit biased. But I also think that's the one race at the Cheltenham Festival he's got the best chance in. I don't think he lacks speed, but I think he might lack grade 1 2 mile speed. I think 2 mile 5 would be perfect for him. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. And then the other one that's interesting at 14s is King of Kingsfield. Is he the each way play? I think he probably is, because the way that he's going to be ridden, I think they found out that you need to hold him off a little bit. And it was form beating Mirrors West could look really good, but he's ran really well this season. He needs to be ridden patiently, and I think he will pick up the pieces. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was to finish second or third, but just not be good enough to win the race. So for me, the interesting one, I think I'd probably take 5 to 4 about Ballyburn. He's going to run here. I think he's probably the best horse in the race, but Slade Steele's a really, really interesting one. I would like him to go down the Ballymore route personally. The 2 mile 1 furlong Dublin Chase, El Fabiola's in there at 4 to 7. I think he's going to come here personally. Obviously the Clarence House at Ascot has been abandoned. It might be rearranged for Cheltenham next week. That often happens, but it also often happens that they reduce the prize money as a result. And would you not just stay in Ireland, save the travelling for more prize money and go to the Dublin Chase? I think you probably would. I think that's what they'll do. 4 to 7. It's not a price you'd really want to get stuck into, but I think he will go here. I don't think he'll go to the Clarence House. Dino Blue 5 to 2 in there. Gentleman to Me 4 to 1. Boot Hill, interesting entry for the British for Harry Fry 8 to 1. Phil Dore 12s, not declared for Thurles on Sunday in the 2.5 mile race. He's ran twice a season, both over 2 miles, both finishing second to Dino Blue and El Fabiola. I think the target is the Ryanair, but it wouldn't surprise me if Gordon uses this as his prep run. The 2 mile Irish Champion Hurdle. I think this is interesting. There could be a bet in here. I know that sounds strange because Stateman's so dominant in the market. He's 4 to 11. I think he's very fair at that price. Impere Pass in their second favourite at 7 to 2. I think he could run. Bob Ollinger in there at 12's third favourite. I think he's going to run in the Beulah on Trials Day. He was successful in his trip over to Cheltenham on New Year's Day, winning the Rail Keel. No Constitution Hill in the Beulah. Makes sense. I think you should use that as an opportunity to go and win again at Cheltenham. 12 to 1. I'm not sure I'd be taking that. I don't think he'd possibly run here. And then the interesting one is Lossiemouth at 14s, because if you can get 3 places anti-post, Doncaster hasn't really been mentioned for her. I think that's for Ashra Diamond and Gala Marceau. Then there's no real other opportunity for her to run before Cheltenham. I think they could use this. I think she could run really well without winning. And I think she's interesting at 14 to 1 if you wanted to play the fact that she's going to place. Right. 2 more races, very, very quickly. The 2 mile handicap hurdle I thought was interesting. I think there are a couple of horses in there that are fishing for marks, Irish marks. I know that's not necessarily what they're going to get in Britain. They usually get a few pounds more. But Antabar in there needs one more run to qualify for a Cheltenham handicap. Are they thinking Martin Pipe? King of Kingsfield, are they thinking County? Magical Zoe, I thought handicap entry was interesting. Zenta, another handicap entry that's interesting. And then Bailey Stock for Willie Mullins and Rich Ritchie. Handicap entry I thought was also interesting. 3 lengths behind Farron Glory and the Royal Bond on his previous start. Are they thinking along those lines of a Martin Pipe, of a County, see what mark he gets in Ireland and then see if that works out to be a relatively decent mark in Britain? The final race then is the 2 mile Coolmore INH flat race, the grade 2. Aurora Vega in there. She runs here, which is the plan. She can't run at Cheltenham, so don't back her for that. Avocate, an entry for Alan King. Interesting at the Dublin Racing Festival. Will she run? I'm not so sure. Femme Magnifique, I was impressed with at Thurles for Willie Mullins. I think she would have a big chance. Fleur or Fazil, again, I thought she was very good at Nace, winning very impressively. They could be 2 that you look towards a Cheltenham Festival race with, the Champion Bumper, or even that Aintree graded bumper, or the Punchestown Mares bumper. Both of them would be very interesting if they turn up in a race like that. But that's my breakdown. That's my immediate reaction to the entries. I think there were a few interesting entries in there, pointing towards Cheltenham, pointing towards the Dublin Racing Festival. And I hope this was some value. If it was, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and get your comments down below. We want to hear your thoughts. Did anything really stick out that I've missed? Let us know. We'll see you soon.